Hello, my name is Gage and I'll be taking you through an introduction to the EPFX quantum biofeedback system. The EPFX is a modern biofeedback training system, arguably one of the most advanced in the world. EPFX stands for Electrophysiological Feedback Zeroid, which is a reference to how fast it's able to comfortably and non-invasively obtain feedback on reactions above what we call a baseline or a norm of response to thousands of electronic signatures of various items in a very short amount of time. Any reactions above a baseline of the norm are considered to be significant as possible responses from stress. Reducing the stress response in an individuated way, unique to each individual, is what the EPFX is all about. But before we tour the program, let's define stress and how it can impact us in ways you may not have considered before. Stress runs much deeper than most people are aware of, in ways that can impact our mental and physical well-being, especially if it occurs even gradually over a prolonged period of time. In a nutshell, stress is any perceived mental or physical tension that results from environmental, physical, mental, emotional, chemical, and a host of other causes. It's a response of the body and mind to any demand made upon it, which results in symptoms such as a rise in blood pressure, a release of hormones, quickness of breath, tightening of muscles, increased mental and cardiac activity, and much more. The most obvious stress response is referred to as the fight or flight reaction, which is your body's fast and automatic switch into high alert. This reaction helps you deal with any perceived threat from your environment, even more subtle forms, such as information overload or your life circumstances. But never before in the history of humankind have we created a world that exposes us to so much rapidly delivered information, be it from media sources, traffic and communication systems, or non-verbally from the environment. An overload of messages can also come from internal sources, either biological, mental, or both. Our minds are theorized to only manage about 7 or 8 bits of information well at once. So anything beyond this can automatically activate this fight or flight biological response, even if on a subtle level that doesn't seem like what we would call a real life-threatening emergency. In the larger scheme of things, this response was designed to stimulate your body to produce the energy, concentration, and agility either to protect yourself or to run as fast as possible. But in our modern times, sometimes stress, even in the form of excess worry or anger, can seem to never let up. Some of our more modern, stressful circumstances, unlike immediate physical threats, do tend to be prolonged and faced on a continual basis. So we can see how this runs the possibility of producing this reaction for much longer than it's intended or even needed to be on for. For so long, you may not even be aware of it anymore, as the immune system, digestive system, and brain can become further and further stressed from overactivation. We may adapt to and simply tolerate our stressors as opposed to managing or reducing them. But what's good for your body in a short-term crisis can be harmful over long periods. The long-term activation of the stress response system can disrupt almost all of your body's processes, impacting risks such as weight gain, insomnia, serious digestive and cardiac issues, memory, physical illnesses, and conditions much more. It can even impair our absorption of nutrients. It engages the heart in a way that changes neurotransmitter and mineral levels, often imbalancing or depleting them when they're needed for other normal bodily functions, such as maintaining bone density. In the initial phase, the brain sets off an entire response system throughout your entire body through nerve and hormonal signals, which activate your adrenal glands to release powerful hormones such as adrenaline and cortisol. But cortisol also slows functions that would be temporarily unnecessary in an extreme emergency situation, but in daily life, all important for managing wellness. It can change your immune system responses by impairing disease-fighting white blood cells and suppress the digestive, reproductive, and growth systems, which are all a part of maintaining overall wellness. But if the stress response never fully switches off, stress hormones can continue to wash through the system in high levels, failing to leave the blood and tissues in a timely way. Any perceived stress, such as stress from work, personal relationships, major life changes, illness, or the death of a family member, friend, or pet, or some even responses to food, such as sugar, can set off the same stress response system in the body. The longer you adapt to them without intervention, the more, in theory, that you're at risk of entering what we call the exhaustion stage of stress, where your body's own maintenance systems can be overwhelmed and not functioning at optimal levels that protect you. But every person is unique. Your reaction to a potentially stressful event, even in normal daily life, is different from anyone else's. Some people naturally manage stress well, while others react strongly to the smallest stressor. Life experiences can also affect your responses to stress. People who were exposed to stressful events as children in the form of neglect or abuse tend to be more vulnerable to stress as adults. In light of our modern world of excess chemical toxicity, some of which mimic hormones, along with emotional tension and the information highway overload of messages, stress is a part of life. But you can learn to identify your stressors, how to take control of some stress-reducing circumstances and lifestyles, even from your environment, and learn how to take care of yourself physically and emotionally. The payoff of managing and reducing stress can be enormous, even by assisting your body to do what it was designed to do, which is repair itself and maintain your health. Your body's designed to heal itself. Take the case of a broken bone. A doctor may set it in a cast, but your bone heals itself. So as you can see by now, there's a lot of issues, even some serious diseases and conditions linked to components of stress. Even the AMA has admitted that stress can be a contributing factor in many diseases, including infectious diseases. The EPFX gives us feedback on your unique responses to stress in a highly refined way and helps train you to react differently and to reduce and control it. So let's begin with a tour of the program and how it works. Technically, a biofeedback device is an instrument that provides a visual or auditory signal corresponding to the status of one or more of a person's physiological parameters, such as brainwave activity, muscle activity, skin temperature, and galvanic skin responses, so that the client can learn to voluntarily control these physiological parameters. And once we've attached the limb and the head harnesses, this first panel is what is referred to before, your specific biofeedback responses to thousands of different electronic signatures, either below, at, or above your baseline. We refer to this part of the program as the matrix. In biofeedback, we're concerned with several different levels of your strength of reactions. 1 time over the norm, which is 15% over your baseline, 2 times over the norm, which is 30% over your baseline, and 3 times over the norm, which is 45% over your baseline. As you can see here, the EPFX matrix categorizes the feedback of these many different signals into a convenient color-coded list that enables you to focus on trends and repeating themes that can assist you in choosing the appropriate stress reduction programs particular to your client. The red was 3 times over the norm. This pink is 2 times over the norm. And the yellow is 1 time over the norm. And the turquoise is the norm. Not only the signatures themselves, but the client's unique reactions to them are recorded into the system and part of how advanced the technology is. For over the course of 20 years, what's called trivector measurements of a variety of these different stress-related items were compiled and stored onto the program in the form of their complex but subtle electronic signatures, which are taken from mathematical calculations of their electrical information from voltage, amperage, resistance measures, sometimes referred to as the body electric. By gaining feedback on your reactions to these signals and then training with the pulses, we're able to see how the client changes their reaction to it through the displayed number. The system uses baselines and subsequent reactions to obtain this feedback information associated with the individual responses to the stored electrical profile of each one of these different items. And like all panels, it gives us visual and auditory information that lets us know how the client's doing, although I do have the sound turned off for this demonstration. But even more exciting. It also has the capacity to compare over the baseline reactions to multiple items from the matrix at once, such as to the muscles and emotional and ponderable signatures at the same time. By obtaining the feedback on their reactions to these items in association with the spinal, muscle, and nerve stress, we can train for a response to the signal until the client achieves less stress. And as they participate in relaxing tension from these areas and holding these new patterns, we can see and hear the feedback of their improvement. Underneath this Muscles tab, we can hone in on the specific areas of tension being held in the muscles and begin gently re-educating them. There's a convenient numbered list here at the top that gives us specific areas of reactions which were over the baseline to work with and to place more attention on. The same goes for the feedback on corresponding nerve signatures that are associated with them. And this gives us the same feedback response percentages listed for us at the top for us to check in with, which get very specific to the different places in the body, even offering us the option of focusing on a certain part of the body with the choices listed here in the center. Notice that the red lower torso is highlighted, and we can work with that first selection and then move on to an area of our choice. Now, we also have specific areas for different types of pain control. Notice how individuated the choices are at the right. Now, so we ask the client to get very specific about the nature of their stress from pain. We can select the appropriate boxes and then set the timer and begin training with them for a better response than before. Each of these panels has a timer on it so that the operator and the person attached can have some say in determining how much of the session can be dedicated to these different themes. This is where those calculations on the matrix obtained over the baseline on the very first part of the program can help you decide which choices amongst all these different panels most pertain to each person's different reactions. Because the biological stress response often directly impacts the cardiovascular system, we have a specific area utilizing feedback dedicated to helping the client to ease the reactions impacting their circulatory system as they learn to feel the control over it through the process. And again, because the system can test multiple reactions at once, you can see that we can get very specific about circulatory stress at the upper right of this panel, which we can click various areas on and which draw from the main scan of over the baseline reactions or according to your or your client's choice. Now, just as the Auto Meridian training program allowed us to get more and more specific as we went deeper into the panel, the same holds true for this program. Reactions above the baseline in the first part of the program can then help us determine which SAR code signatures to train with from this one. SAR codes are homeopathic formulas that are made from healthy tissue samples and are part of the electrical signatures that are stored in the database. Reactions to stress above the baseline to these items usually mean that training with them is a good choice, and this panel gives us that option. Now, as you can see from this panel, this targets stress reduction training that may be impacting blood pressure, and there are several other tabs along this section, including autonomic response training. Here we can help the client learn to relax the main parts of the body associated with that stress response, which again can impact the ability to digest properly and create uncomfortable feelings of nervousness. The sympathetic stabilization system referred to here is that which stays on in overactivity, even if on a subtle level during that response. And the parasympathetic nervous system, governing digestive processes and more, can become stressed in this response as well. And it affects so many other areas that this program is another one of those that we consider central in overall stress reduction and the impact it can have on your overall sense of well-being. This next panel has some more specific timed training programs which allow us to work in timed increments. Now, some of these are related to enhanced peak performance sports training, although they're good for everybody, even non-athletes. Training muscles for mass, for example, is especially important in those who lead sedentary lifestyles. That's one of the factors that the American Medical Association articles suggest is at epidemic levels in our society. And it's a type of underactivity with its own set of stress-related issues upon the heart, weight, brain function, and more. Most importantly, this program has enhanced learning programs called super learning, where we're able to train control of brainwave harmonics and create awareness states conducive to improved concentration in several levels, as you can see. Some activities are more left brain focused, while other items focus more on the right. This is one of the most important components of the program, since reducing the stress as it affects the brain is central to maintaining wellness. The brain is often called the master controller of the body, governing not only our ability to think and feel well, it sends and receives signals, often beneath our perception, that are important to the rest of the body's optimal function. And it's believed that by relaxing our minds and slowing the rhythms down, more mind energy is available to us, and the natural stress-reducing biochemical processes needed to maintain stability are able to operate better. This next panel is one of the many programs, such as this one, that automatically focus to various electrical parameters of the client's responses and offer training feedback in real time. The system is self-correcting in that it will adjust levels when the system detects a stress response, so that you can utilize the time that it's running to either educate your client, allow your client to share what may be on their mind, or conduct relaxation exercises, or utilize other techniques that you may have skill in. Now, I don't think that anyone watching this would argue that certain emotions, such as excess anger, resentment, grief, frustration, or the like, don't cause stress. They can even have an impact on the blood pressure. And because they're such a large part of people's stress picture, we have a wide variety of training programs in this panel that are many people's favorites. There's too many to actually demonstrate here. But people can learn to train to stabilize their blood pressure as it's triggered by emotions, for example. However, as a continuation of the super learning theme, many people relieve their stress by training to reach heightened states of awareness, even on a spiritual level, and programs designed for that purpose, allowing clients to center on achieving their higher, less mundane purpose, are also included here, along with some others that support the release of unwanted patterns and trends in their life. And because our emotions play such an important role in our cognitive function, special focus and memory training programs are also contained here. Now, obviously, in the short amount of time, I can't take you through all the panels, but I think you get an idea of how holistically it's designed. There are more and more panels to explore, such as those that feature the groups of items from the matrix regarding reactive nutritionally based signatures, skin re-education for beauty, stress pertaining to aging factors, and much more. Biofeedback allows individuals to take control over bodily processes normally considered involuntary. EPFX quantum biofeedback empowers people with the ability to use reactive signals from their own bodies to positively change the way they live. Thank you for listening. I'm Gage Tarrant. You can see that there's a large variety of these items as reflected in the colored subfiles at the right, which allows you to filter them out from the larger main list, only to look at one particular set of responses. For example, I can click on muscles and look at only the items that say muscles, and those ranges of reactions separately from the rest of the list. Electrical information about these items, again, recorded and stored in the system, spans from a wide range of homeopathics, nutrient items, flower essences, a variety of different items found in the environment, and much, much more. Because homeopathy is such a vast field, a large array of those items are included here, and obtaining biofeedback responses to them above the baseline, and then sending some of these signals back for more feedback, can help us learn about and control our responses to them. But even better, it can help us select which of the actual training programs to choose for the client's unique picture. This portion of the program, called the Body Viewer, is one of the most important because it allows us to make selections that run simultaneously along with the others throughout the rest of the training. For example, we can select programs that place emphasis on areas of stress, as well as more specific ones for a generalized support of the focus of the rest of the session. And now, by simply placing my cursor on the main panel behind it, I can switch back. The EPFX is vast, with a lot of different specific programs to choose from, but the broader stress reduction programs are conveniently accessed from one very user-friendly page. This main panel has programs considered as having a broader impact for general applications and are therefore considered conducive to preparing the client to focus on more specific themes such as muscle, circulation, oxygenation, pain, or mental stress release training later on in the session. So we'd like to visit at least one of these main programs early in the session. Every panel here is designed to help reduce the amount of stress this person has for this kind of energy. And again, these programs are used to help set the stage for the more finely tuned applications we'll demonstrate in a moment. Let's take a look at the first section, the Biofeedback Automeridian program. By obtaining baseline reactions to signals associated with the tension held that may affect meridians, we're able to apply more finely tuned signals back to the client for helping them learn how to manage their overall energy flow. The ancient art of traditional Chinese medicine believes that the flow of energy throughout the body is important for maintaining organ health and a vital life force. So relaxing the associated tension along all of these different meridians is believed to support that effort for a sense of overall well-being. So as you can see now, we have a color-coded system that reflects the reactions above the baseline. And we can now proceed with training with them, as well as focusing on more specific areas referred to as the quadrants, where the client may be holding the most stress. For example, if the client says that they have more stress in the lower left extremities, we can choose to place more emphasis there by selecting that area with a click of a button. After employing the main portion of this program, a second portion here allows us to bring more emphasis to our client's smaller areas of stress, such as along the neck, by selecting additional programs more specific to them. Some areas have nerval connections to various organs and are conveniently listed on the picture. Again, the system is very user-friendly, and just clicking the picture starts the training for this area as we continue to gain feedback from the client on how well they're doing. This next panel is designed to focus on areas that have been associated with chakra energy flow. This is a particularly powerful way to assist the client in relaxation from the top of the head to the base of the spine along specific energy centers, and to train the relaxation of them in a way that supports the rest of the changes they desire to take place with more ease. Again, this is an endeavor that's believed to support and set the stage for the rest of the program's more specific applications. This next program is designed to measure the changes in the electric magnetic field that are caused by stress in association with different places in the body, and measuring the percentage of improvement to the feedback. If we haven't achieved the desired feedback response upon the first attempt, we can repeat the process until the client reacts with a significant level of improvement at the baseline of the norm. Now, although this information exchange is very fast, it shows feedback associated with specific areas of the body, which can, again, help us make better choices in the more pinpointed portions of the program later. But in the holistic fields, literally the whole of their being is considered to be an interdependent system, reliant upon all parts working with each other. And although a client may have stress in one area of the body, another area of stress might be entwined with their response to it. So these broader programs are designed to not reduce the client down to a single part without considering the stress upon the whole system first. The Trivector Biofeedback Exchange Program allows us to address the person's overall stress management in much the same way as the signatures were stored on that very first panel. By gaining feedback on these overall parameters, which originally were based on further calculations of voltage, amperage, and resistance, we can assist the client in learning to control the amount of energy that they take in, put through, and then expend in a more balanced and less stressful way that may help them with energy management. Now, this panel is an extension of the Trivector panel, and it takes that programming to a more refined level. This DNA stress reduction training is designed to help deal with an estimation of the amount of stress that we may be storing in the DNA, obtained from baseline stress reactions to these specific signatures which were stored in the system and which reaction feedback is obtained on. Now, while we're training with these stored signals until the scores suggest that the client has reduced their reactions, this panel also helps people relax. As on many of the panels, by measuring the subtle voltage, amperage, resistance, and the subsequent calculations of those, it makes it a much more finely tuned stress reduction signal than a simple frequency. Next, we have the auto color program. This panel files through a rainbow of different colors flashed to the client as I'm demonstrating now, and it detects a feedback response to the signatures of each. Colors have been associated with different moods, themes, and functions, and can be an interesting way for the client to intervene on their stress by surrounding themselves with it, especially outside the session through clothing, stone jewelry, and the like, or with a color that helps reduce their feelings of stress and which research suggests may even have a positive impact on them vibrationally. Now we'll get a little more complex here and examine a larger panel within the program which has everything to do with one of the most common places that people hold tension, and that's in their spinal muscles, connecting to the corresponding nerves and the vertebrae, which can affect our posture and the flow of electrical energy, spinal fluid, and nerve signals to the brain, as well as to the corresponding organ connections via the nerves. So again, the system uses baselines and subsequent reactions to obtain this feedback information associated with the individual responses to the stored electrical profiles of each of these items. Like all panels, it gives us visual and auditory information that lets us know how the client's doing, although I do have the sound turned off for this demonstration. But even more exciting, it also has the capacity to compare over the baseline reactions to multiple items from the matrix at once, such as to the muscles and to the emotional imponderable signatures at the same time. Now, by obtaining feedback on their reactions to these items in association with spinal, muscle, and nerve stress, we can train for a response to those signals until the client achieves less stress. And as they participate in relaxing tension from these areas and holding the new patterns, we can see and hear the feedback of their improvement.